why is perspective drawing important for industrial designers? So, to answer that question, we first gonna discuss what exactly is perspective drawing. So, this refers to the representation of 3D objects or spaces within a 2D dimensional artwork, such as a hand sketch drawing. Artists use this perspective in order to create the realistic impression of depth for that product. I've also added on this slide 2 video links. So one of those is towards a video from the design sketchbook, where he presents the workflow used to draw a cordless grinder. And to the right we have some tips regarding how to draw product design sketching, a video by Wow Me Design. So why is perspective drawing so important? For industrial designers, this is really important because it allows them to accurately represent the 3-dimensional form of a product onto a 2D surface. And this is essential to communicate the design towards the clients, towards all the engineers involved within the manufacturing of the product, as well as with other stakeholders involved. So the main advantage of perspective drawing is to show the true size and shape of a product. And as we saw before, it's really important to add that illusion of depth within those. So usually you do this by using lines that converge at vanishing points. It is also important within design sketches to add additional elements, such as, let's say, a room, a table, or put the product in the hands of the user. This will better help the clients and other stakeholders to better understand how that product will look, but how will it also function within the real life. Because that's the most important part of a product, that it is intended to be used within the real life. And also, perspective drawing helps to communicate the idea of the product better and clearly. As we can see, a well-drawn perspective drawing can be a powerful tool for communication, and this can lead to better collaboration and ultimately a better product. So we're gonna see what are the types of perspective drawing. So the first one is one point perspective. This is the simplest type of perspective drawing. And as we can see, the objects are facing the viewer directly. So over here we have the truck that is facing the user directly, and also with this bus. The same in the image to the right with that car, so the car is facing towards the viewer. As we can see, in one perspective, all the lines that recede into a distance converge into a single point. So over here we see all those points converging over there, and for the car as well we see that single point. The vanishing point is always located on the horizon line, which is an imaginary line that is parallel to the viewer's eye. So we can have that maybe positioned to the back like this, or somewhere to the center. So this is 1 point perspective. If you're gonna move forward to 2 point perspective, this is used to draw objects that are not facing the viewer. So as we can see over here for this building, we have those 2 vanishing points, one to the left, one to the right of the building, and they are also located on the horizon line. And to the right we have a Fiat Panda hand sketch that uses the same 2 point perspective. And there is also 3 point perspective. So as you can see, this type is usually used to draw objects that are either tilted upwards or downwards. As we can see with this furniture piece over here, it's a little bit tilted. So over here we have 3 vanishing points, so located on each side of the object, as well as we see over here the one for the top. So all those points will be vanishing over there. The vanishing points are located as well so those two on the horizon line. I added two videos over here as well. You can check those if you want to learn more about 3-point perspective. And there is also one more type. So this is the oblique perspective. As we can see, this is not technically a perspective drawing, but it can also create that illusion of depth. So over here we see a power plug, and we see that oblique drawing over here. To the right of the screen we have that 2D sketch. So for that we have a 2D sketch for that power plug, the oblique projection, and also the isometric projection over here. So we see that difference between those two. This type of oblique perspective can be used to distort the perspective in order to add a sense of dynamism or movement to the sketch. Okay, so now for the case study of this video, it will be made on this plywood chair. I don't know exactly who's the original author. As we can see over here, I did a visual match on Google, and I see that same photo added on various Pinterest posts or a YouTube channel. We see over here the signature. We know that it was created in 2011, and this is a plywood made from two pieces. So as you can see over here, two pieces molded plywood chair, and there are various sketches. So I decided to use this as the case study to show why it's important to have perspective drawings of a product. Now, regarding the manufacturing of such a molded plywood chair, we see that manufacturing molded plywood involves heating and bending of a single sheet of plywood into the desired shape. Over here to the right, we have that single sheet of plywood, which is made from multiple thin slices of wood, which are called veneers, and these are glued together. It's important that when they are glued together, their grain orientation is position alternative. So this highly increases the strength of the chair. This method is used to make plywood chairs such as the iconic molded plywood chair from IMAS that we see over here to the left. Now, for the mahogany plywood, this is a type of plywood that is made from thin sheets of mahogany wood, and they are glued together with a water-resistant adhesive. What's important is that their thickness can vary. So I decided to add this when we are going to discuss this sketch regarding a plywood, because we have the overall dimensions of the chair, but also the thickness, so how thick will be that sheet of plywood. And we see that the typical value for that thickness is around half an inch, or in millimeters 12.7 millimeters, but we can go further up to 18 millimeters or so. Keep in mind that if you're going to add thickness to that chair, it will also be more resistant to bending, but it also become a lot heavier. So this is the manufacturing process. So the sheet of plywoods are glued together, and there are these molds where they will be bent, and they will also be heated, so with steam, in order to bend that plywood. And we see over here those cavities that can shape molded chairs. Now, I use the same photo on an AI platform. So the AI platform is called Common Sense Machines. And as you can see, the platform struggled to recreate that chair. So it didn't understand exactly how is that sitting and how is that other part of the chair. I will log into that platform to better visualize those. So over here, this is the initial one. Afterwards, I cleaned a little bit the sketch, so I deleted those shadows. So this is the initial result. As we can see, the AI platform struggled to match the perspective of that object. If I'm gonna rotate the object and look at it somewhere over here, we can see that even the leg position, so this should be over here, and we see that this was rotated in position over there. And for the rest of the back, we see that this was also poorly shaped by the AI. And there's also the other version, which is this one. And again, we can see that from a certain perspective, the AI software managed to match it. So somewhere over here, we see the backrest, we see it over here, but again, if I'm gonna rotate the model, I'm gonna see that this is completely wrong, so it looks just like an extruded sketch on the middle. Doesn't have that overall chair shape. Keep in mind that the AI platform struggled because it didn't really understand this perspective, because this was distorted by the creator of that sketch. For other elements such as this Peugeot concept car, we're gonna see that the AI platform using the edge tracking algorithm managed to recreate the profile. The only drawback is that the car is very, very wide. But other than that, the shape of the car, let's say, resembles that one. There are other cases like this rhino calf. I will open this model. So this was the input image, and the resulting 3D model is this one. So over here we see that the AI managed to define that. It has some problems mainly at the head, where we see that the head has been merged multiple times, and over here we have that rhino face, and on the other side we see this that looks something closer to a horse. Also for the hoofs, if you take a look at the bottom over here, we have hoofs like this, and on this side hoofs like a rhino, so like a horse and like a rhino. Okay, so this is why it's important to have good perspective drawings, that even AI platforms won't be confused. So let's go to the conclusion section regarding this, and afterwards we're gonna jump within Keyshot to discuss that perspective problem of that molded chair. So this is really important. If the hand sketches are intended to be used for computer design applications such as CATIA, Fusion, SolidWorks, where we're gonna go and add those views within various planes and start drawing that shape, it's really important to keep them consistent and at the same proportions. So here are some tips that you can use. If you use hand sketches, you can use a grid or a ruler to help you draw straighter lines and accurately measure distance between those. If you're gonna do that, you can also use the same scale within all the views, just like within a computer design like SolidWorks or CATIA or Fusion or Inventor or other, where you're gonna do a 2D drawing, you're gonna have those top, front, side views which will be aligned perfectly. So that's really important if you wanna use those design mockups to shape your model. And also you can also label each. This is mostly important if you will have many views of that product, so also the front and the back, the left and the right, the top and the bottom. It's better to have those labeled. As a reference for this, I added some hand sketches. So these were created by GM Joe, as we can see over here, from Korea. And we have different products. We have over here, it was called medical device. It looks something like ironing, for straightening cloths. But we see that those views are aligned, so we can use these, let's say, as the side view, even though it's a little bit tilted. We see that over their side, and we can use it with the top view, and we can properly define this within a software, a computer design software. There is also this BlackBerry concept named New Blood. So we see from 2009, we see the front and the side view of that phone concept. And there is also the same workflow for a necklace, a Bluetooth headset over here. If the sketches are not intended to be used for computer design, such as the molded chair that we discussed previously, so if it's only intended for visualization purpose, then the perspective can be deformed to present, I don't know, a sense of mystery, excitement within those drawings. And I added over here some tips. If you use forced perspective to make the objects appear larger or smaller than they actually are, this can be done by converging the lines of perspective at a point closer to the viewer for a larger object. You can also exaggerate perspective to make the objects appear either larger or smaller than they are. And I added over here a sketch that includes multiple elements. Some of those are exaggerated in perspective to better show the interior. So as you can see over here with this interior chair. Okay, so now for the case study, I will run Keyshot. So this is Keyshot. I've already designed the chair within Fusion. As we can see over here, we have that chair aligned to the canvas. It's not perfectly aligned because this is one of the problems with this perspective drawing. If I try to keep it like this, it will never look like the one from the perspective, or like the one over here, which we see this should be a top view, but as you can see from the top view, so this should be the backrest. These two should be for the front of the chair, but they are nowhere near that perspective. So this is important when you are sketching. If you only sketch those as potential other design ideas, that can be an option, but it's important to be consistent. So mainly over here, I made use of that one, of the side view, in order to have this drawn. So this is a chair. I will open it within Keyshot to discuss some aspects regarding that. Why is perspective so important? So the first step will be to create a plane. I will also drag that chair, so it was exported as a step file. We see plywood chair step from Fusion to Keyshot. We see that the Y and Z axes are flipped. That means that I will need to rotate the chair on X. Now I will make the plane larger. Let's make it even larger. And I will add that plywood texture. So I will just drag and drop it. I have it over here prepared. Plywood, molded plywood, sketch, have that positioned. I can now rotate this plane 180 on X-axis. And as you can see, the plane should not be that high on Y. So, okay, not on Y, sorry. Then it's on Z. Yeah, on Z, only 1.7 or 1, yes, like this should be fine, even though over there you already have it once again. So have this at 1.2, 1.2. Okay, we see that. Now I will slightly increase that and also slightly increase this one. So this is much better centered. Now, if I'm gonna take the plywood chair and I'm gonna I'm gonna duplicate this because I will leave the initial one over there. So I will right click, duplicate this, and have it rotated once like that and once like that. So I'm just gonna round up all of those. Afterwards, go from the top view. And now if I will position this over the design, we're gonna see how that was created. Okay. And we see that within Keyshot we have the possibility to influence the camera perspective. So over here within lens settings, if you don't have this open, you can open it. This is a perspective view, but at the same time, if I will go for orthographic view, I will see that this will be the result. And for perspective view, I can do a change in focal length. If I'm gonna move this closer, I'm gonna see how that depth that we discussed earlier is dramatically increased. But if I'm gonna take this focal point somewhere up to 200, it will no longer be that much depth within the resulting model. So this is really important to keep in mind, that within perspective you can change that. And now I will also want to duplicate this chair once again. So have this again duplicated for the top view. So I'm going to rotate this minus 90. And again, I will go and check the top view to see that chair. And as we can see, the chair is slightly different than the drawing. It's a lot more bigger in length. So in order to change that, we can either scale this on that axis. So I can enable the scale tool over here, and I can try to play with that. So let's take a look at scaling this on that axis, which will be the y-axis in this case. So something like this, but that is quite a lot. So let's keep this at 2, or maybe 1.1 and the others at 2. And we're gonna see how much that chair will be changed if you're gonna have that scaled. So this is important, why you need to be consistent within your designs. I'm just gonna scale this slightly like this. Afterwards, again, go from top view, and we're gonna see how different is that. To better visualize it, I'm gonna add a glass texture for this, but maybe a colored glass texture, something like this. And we see how that shape differs. Okay, so we can try to adjust it to match it, but this is why it's important to do that adjustment when you are drawing those views. Otherwise, they are kinda useless because they are not really matching the reality. Another aspect that we see over here is the profile of the leg. So this edge should not be parallel to the axis of the chair if those legs are intended to be as the one within the perspective. So maybe the artist just wanted to create a variation, to maybe try to change that chair to look like that. I don't know exactly. And now let's see the final perspective view. I will take this plane and I will have this duplicated. Position it over here, have that rotated, but not on that axis, on X. Snap it to the ground. And now with this plywood chair, I will scale it. But initially I want to reset the scale so to be the initial design that matched that left view. I will add a texture. So maybe I will go for something like a rough material. I will change the color to match that, so something orangey. I will make the chair a little bit bigger, and I will try to match it with the perspective over there. I'm just gonna roughly move it around, and as we can see, with the chair position like this, close to that reference, I will hide the other plywood chairs. If I will go again to camera, so just like we discussed earlier with that perspective, if I'm gonna deform the perspective by lowering the focal length, I'm gonna see that the chair will look like this. So within that hand sketch perspective, the author wanted to put, let's say, the focal length somewhere over here in order to make those a lot bigger, so the front two legs. But as we can see, the back of that chair will never be, let's say, that narrow. Maybe according to this, but this looks extremely narrow over there within that view. Or if I will slightly change that, we can also change the camera focus. So for example, if I will right click over here and set this as the camera target, if I'm gonna rotate around, I'm gonna see how I can play with this. So you're gonna see over here for that lecture, it still should have a lot more curvature according to that drawing. So a lot more than I added over here within the model. We can easily change that within Fusion. I'm also gonna make a separate video just regarding this step within Fusion. So since we have mirror over here, I can just select those points and have them moved. The only side effect of this is that when I will click finish form, Fusion will need time in order to process all of those. So we see computing thicken because I added that 18mm for the plywood. But now it managed to do that. And now that curvature will be, let's say, better. And I can also slightly adjust over here at the top as well. But if I'm gonna change the focal point all the way over here, I'm gonna see that this will be that matching perspective. So if the chair will be that large in the back, it will never have a perspective like this. As you see over here, this perspective is really going from this point vertically. But over here within the drawing is going from this point closer to the middle of the chair vertically. So this is why this perspective drawing is just weirdly defined, and even the AI struggle with that, as you saw. Okay, so if you find this kind of content useful for you, if you are also an industrial designer or you aspire to learn this, I hope that you learned something new from this video. And if so, please let me know in the comment section, or maybe consider to subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content. I also am currently trying to convert some watch time. So as we can see over here, watch time from subscribers is currently at 5.1. It used to be 3.7 several days ago, but then I decided to add this notification at the end of the video, and the amount of people that subscribed highly increased. So I would like to thank everybody that considered to subscribe for this kind of content. Okay, so stay creative, and I'll see you in the next video.